we started Lula, what do we want to offer people?
No, we probably took from our, I think like any cooks or you took from our families and the
Personal
food we
experience,
love,
yeah.
and it just came from us. We had a nice time sort of talking back and forth together.
So we're friends, we would talk about food and recipes, and I think I probably asked a couple times for a soup recipe that I really liked that you did. And then there came this opportunity, I mean, it's complicated, but we ended up making soups and then driving around town selling the rest of the soup to cafes that didn't have kitchens.
Yeah. It's very 90s.
It's very 90s because today you wouldn't really be able to do that. We were in our car, you know, with buckets of soup, and we would sell them right out of the back of the car.
It was fun.
It was fun.
I mean, I think Lula started out as a community, just because we started out in this area that was very desolate in a way of whatever type of people like to come into Lula, let's just say.
There was a big hotel that you could rent by the 15-minute increment, things like that. So it was more colorful of a place. Logan Square in the 90s was a very different place economically. The housing market here, it was very cheap to live here. There were families who had been living here for many generations. There were also very few public spaces that were occupied, meaning the parks and the boulevards were pretty forlorn and empty. There weren't benches. The L station was a little shady. Buildings that are now like landmark buildings filled with coffee shops and artisanal barbers and things like that.
We've had some of the same customers for the 18 years that we've been there. Some of them came for lunch daily. Some don't come for a year and then come back for a few years. It's just
I just
in
saw
and
one
out.
pass by the window just now.
And
It's a neighborhood thing.
It's such a neighborhood thing.
The menu at Lula is not one menu. We have, we're open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. On all those periods, we do two things. We do what we call our cafe menu, which is casual sandwiches, salads, and small appetizers to share. You could come in and, one person could have a pasta that's always on the menu that Leah's grandma always made her, or you can also have this other dish of bluefish with fava beans and preserved lemon and flatbread that we are gonna have on the menu just briefly. And that is because the bluefish was available from the East Coast and we flew it in and smoked it, and fava beans were just available at that one moment, so we're just gonna run that. And they're two very different kinds of experiences. You can have them at the same table at the same time, and have that kind of sense of groundedness and also experiment. The longest running menu items are...
Well, the Tanika, right?
The Tanika would be the
would
longest.
be like
it's a sandwich.
It's
a spiced peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah.
The breakfast burrito.
Oh, the breakfast burrito, yeah.
And then we do this intricate, much more creative and dynamic specials menu. And those are hyper seasonal, really fleeting moments in the year that we capture something and do it. I'll get a text from a farmer that says that she can clip some cherry blossoms or apple blossoms, which is something that actually just happened a few minutes ago. And I'll say yes, and I'll go into the restaurant and be like, okay guys, come up with something to use for apple blossom vinaigrette, because we're putting one on the menu on Monday, and figure out the rest of it. That's the kind of thing that's just hyper moment, you get it, it's gonna be gone, and that's it.
The people that work there are all very creative, and they all bring so much to Lula, and I really think you've been really open to letting people just bring their talents and ideas.
And then as we kept going, art on the wall was a huge important thing that we did and really paid attention to. Hosting art shows, hosting music at the beginning, and then really supporting a lot of musicians, artists, writers, etc. as employees.
Playing music in Chicago probably since I became an adult in 1990, I suppose. I have been playing recently. I'm in a few different things. I mean, I've been playing in an old-time band for 25 years called the Paulina Hollers, which has had rotating people, but Jim Becker and me have both been the core of that group for a long time, and it's Appalachian fiddle music and songs, which is fun and taught me a lot of lovely music that I can now just pick up and play. I've been playing a lot with a group called the Girls of the Golden West, but I've been, like, especially maybe in this past year, writing a lot of just my own music, and recently played a solo thing of that music, and I also recently played with a band, and I'm kind of working it out right now. Such beauty exists, though the apex resists. You do feed your own. You do feed your own. Brushing hairs with your neighbor's gardens overgrown.
The new restaurant at the MCA will be called Marisol, and it comes from the artist Marisol, who was a sculptor and painter and muse to Andy Warhol. She donated a sculpture called Six Women to the MCA to begin their permanent collection. But she's also, a spirit guide for us in many ways, and the MCA is an extension of this creative community that we're talking about with Lula. So they reached out to me, and they're building a creative team that involves, restaurant people and, food people and graphic designers and artists and architects to sort of rethink their public spaces. They've embarked on this major renovation of the museum to create 2 new large public spaces, and one of which is the restaurant and coffee bar there on the first floor. We'll be doing, again, seasonal contemporary food in this space that's going to sort of talk to us and tell us, how to think about the future, and we're constantly going to be changing and developing.
Chicago has a lot of hardworking folks. I mean, I think for sure. I hope that people who work really hard at what they love and do can support themselves or their families doing it. But I mean, I do think part of it is can just be a little bit of luck. I think we were pretty lucky with the success of it for whatever reason. I mean, we put our heart into it, and I think that shows, and people feel that and like that.
I mean, part of the reason why Lula is what it is that we created it when it's a DIY space. Like, we were in our, we're young, we didn't know what we were doing. It was part of like the experiment of being, having the possibility of being like, in your 20s and the world is open, and like you kind of experience it as a possibility rather than a series of limitations. And it still is that for all sorts of people.